Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Cheap Seats. It's the second show of the week, which means it's our FPL show. And so that's why Dean smiles, because he knows he's like leading everybody and punishing us, while the rest of us are trying to figure out how to get Mo Salah back in after AFCON. It is game week 25. And remember, it closes on Saturday at 1 p.m. So get your squads in. Dean and Wahid, how excited are you to have Mo Salah back in the Premier League to help your FPL sides move on a little bit? Because from my perspective, it's been slow going, not having someone with a chunky points haul to help you move forward.
I've actually been better in the few weeks without Mo Salah than I was with him with my side. So my account has been improving week by week. But to be fair, I couldn't have possibly been doing worse than the start of the season. So I haven't missed Mo Salah too much.
And Dean,
I think
yourself?
the big thing now, I think the big thing is, so you can look at it one of two ways. Obviously, Salah's going to get you points, and he's always going to get you points. But everyone in the game is going to have Salah. Yeah. So it doesn't really matter. So I think the big thing is, and like we had, without Salah, FPL becomes an open race. Like, then you actually have to make calls, which is obviously exciting. But at the same time, when you get it wrong, you wish you just had Salah back. So I'm looking forward to it. A lot of guys brought in Salah this week already after AFCON, after he came back, raring to go. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Before we continue, remember the show is partnered with Classic Shirts ZA. They are really great partners. Please go to their website where they have some really awesome classic shirts. There's also a little bit of a teaser if you want to see, to remind you of the glory days of Bafana Bafana. Yes, you're like saying, Bafana. I know, but they are trying to find a way to get you that replica 1996 shirt. So please go to their Instagram at classicshirts.za or classicshirts.co.za. Our shirt of the week, we have a shirt of the week, and ladies and gentlemen on the show, that's how good we are, is this PSG fourth kit, this white, beautiful, inspired, Jordan inspired kit from with PSG, Bulls reminiscent. I know Dean's a Bulls fan. I like the fact that it's so white because I can wear it on anything and on a date. And my date on the other end, who may not know soccer, will not know what the soccer shirt is. She'll just think it's a very fancy shirt. So that's one of the.
And if she does know football, she'll know you have no loyalty.
Exactly, and that's another thing. But you still look good. Yes, that means you've got money. But yeah, Dean, I know you're a fan of the Bulls, and so this shirt reminds you of that legend himself, Michael Jordan.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any better team. Almost, it's obviously stands to be corrected, but the '90s Bulls team was just unreal with Dennis and Jordan and Scotty, all of them there. And I mean, it's cool to see two sports kind of collaborating as well and kind of unifying there. So NBA is becoming big at the moment, or has always been big, but definitely growing a lot in South Africa. And to partner up with PSG, it's just a great kit to see. So yeah, really.
And if you're into NBA, then Classic Shirts sells a whole bunch of NBA stuff.
Yes,
and
they also have.
If you want to get a PSG kit and then a Jordan and then a Bulls kit and then a both kit, just go and get all three if you want.
Yes. Remember, just use this discount code when you're on their website, CheapSeats50. It lets them know that we sent you there, and also it's a nice little discount for you when you're making that purchase as well. So, gents, what we normally do on our FPL show, to everyone who's new, if you're new, we give out what our transfers in for the week are, transfers out, our differential, as well as the captaincy option. So I'm going to start with Wahid, because he's decided to go for a virus. In bringing in Paul Pogba. Emil Smith-Rowe is being transferred out here. He also says Paul Pogba's is differential, so we'll have to ask him about that. And his captain is Kevin De Bruyne. I know Paul Pogba's had 7 assists. Is this the time to buy him back, Wahid?
So Paul Pogba, I'm hoping he doesn't bring to my FPL dressing room the same sort of upheaval he brings to the Man United dressing room. But yeah, United have a double game week this week. Paul Pogba is only owned by 7% of players in the game, so he's been a little bit overlooked. He's not hugely expensive. And he's the type of player who's able to grab assists and goals. He got a goal this last week in his first appearance in a couple of months. and we know he's able to get on the assist sheet quite a lot. I'm not a fan of the man, and put my pride away to include him in my side. And he's one of the players I've looked at for a couple of weeks. United have, I think, 5 fixtures before we play City, and then after City we have another easy fixture in Spurs. So we have out of the next 7 fixtures, we have like 6 easy ones. So yeah, Paul Pogba might be able to get us a few goals and assists in that period. And if we are to putting my feelings about the player aside, if we are going to make a run for the top 4, I think Paul Pogba is going to have to play out of his skin, and he's going to have to be the Paul Pogba we hoped to sign when we signed him, and not the Paul Pogba we've seen for the last 5 years.
Look, Paul's always given you moments, and he started this season off well. It was a really great asset. I thought the train had left the station because Ralph wasn't playing him, but I think now Ralph's gone back to a Ole-esque formation.
Ralph wasn't playing Pogba because Pogba was injured. Pogba got injured after the Liverpool debacle when he was on international duty. He's been injured since then.
Okay. So who did he? Just remind me. He played Bruno and Pogba in midfield. Who was
he played Bruno and Pogba as 8s. So he didn't play. He hasn't been playing a number 10.
But he plays 4-3-3 because he wants to play 4-3-3.
Ole was playing 4-2-3-1, so that meant he had to go with Scott and Fred in midfield and Bruno as the 10, which shoved Paul Pogba.
So who's Ralph's partner with Bruno and Pogba? Is it?
He's played McTominay so far, but that's because Fred has COVID. So we'd have to see who comes in and what happens when Fred's available.
So that's a double game week for Manchester United. Dean, you've also lined your team from a Manchester United perspective. You've got Bruno instead of Pogba. You've made De Bruyne your differential. I understand why you're captaining Bruno because obviously it's a double game week, and you're taking out Son. So explain the differential first, and then we'll go into why you chose Bruno instead of Pogba.
So differential KDB, which sounds weird, but with Salah coming back, there's only a few midfielders in the game that are like that expensive. So Salah's at 12.7, De Bruyne is at 12.1. So I think he's probably the closest in terms of price point. And a lot of guys made the Salah to De Bruyne switch when AFCON was there. So I think a lot more people are going to be flooding out of KDB and into Salah. And I think it may be a week too early to jump on the Salah train. KDB's got Norwich this weekend, which we all know Norwich defensive frailties. And KDB's just had an unreal couple of weeks. He's got 11 points, 8 points, 11 points in FPL over the last 3 weeks. He really looks like he's coming back into form, or the KDB that we knew like 2 seasons ago. And he's just firing. I captained him this past game week, and it worked out fantastically for me. So I think the ownership of KDB is definitely going to drop, but I think, as I said, it might be a little bit too early. I'm going to keep him for that Norwich game, and then maybe make the switch to Salah game week 26 when they've got their double. But then on the Bruno front, double game week, Bruno's obviously going to play now. I think he's looked better in that 4-3-3 system that Rolf is playing now. And I think he's also now going to be on penalties after Ronaldo's horrendous miss against Middlesbrough over the weekend. So he's on free kicks, he's on penalties. Bruno's definitely the guy from a Man United's perspective.
I think the only issue with that is that United, with the 4-3-3, have been able to look good attacking wise for like 45 to 60 minutes, but lose control.
They just can't.
We lose control when we unable. So Pogba and Bruno as both as 8s end up losing control of the game. So where you might benefit from having a Pogba or Bruno in your FPL side is in your first 45 or 60 minutes if they grab a goal or assist. The problem is after 55 minutes it's going to shit. And are they able to then go in that time in that last third of the game and go and perform? And if United aren't up at that time, if they're chasing a game, like are they going to change the game for United? And that's going to affect your FPL side as well. So it's something to take into account that United can't control games at the moment. They just don't have it in them.
Yeah, so I'm still trying to figure out which United player I want for this double game week. I know Arsenal's blanking it, so it's a little bit.
Personally, if I had the funds, I didn't have the funds, I would have gone Sancho.
Okay. Oh, big call.
I think it's a differential, and he's got a low ownership. He's playing well, and he's been a goal threat. He scored against Middlesbrough, and he was a goal threat. He was our best player against Burnley. If I had the funds, I was a little bit short. I probably would have gone Sancho.
Okay.
Just remind us where you are in the world ranking again, Wade.
No, we don't need to. We don't need to talk about that.
We don't need to go into that. We don't need to go into that right now. Let the man hunt his ball.
Been on a steady uptake.
Okay. One last thing from myself. Yes, so I'm bringing in Mo Salah as the fodder. Going into for everybody else. Obviously, Kane's coming out because I had Kane in there. I also have De Bruyne in my team, so I'm captaining De Bruyne this weekend. And then my differential is Armando Broja. He's very cheap, I think around about 5.2. Around about the 5 is very cheap. And he starts, he plays, causes problems. Dean can tell you all about Armando Broja. I think he's a steal at that price point because it's really hard with Mo Salah coming back to find a cheap striker to just have sitting on the bench and ready to come on in case there's an injury. And that was my biggest worry. And he's the guy. I think you can look at everybody else, but I think he's the guy that for me that is a differential. Also, from a striker perspective.
On that Broja point, they've got one semi-tough game against United this weekend, which against that defense is not that tough. And then Southampton go on a great run. They've got Everton, which is they are looking they look worse with Dele Alli. And
I reckon Everton are going down.
I watched that game against Newcastle just because I wanted to see if Dele could actually do something, and he looked. I mean, some of those Everton fans said that it belongs in the Hall of Shame. Like it was a shambles. It was a free transfer, and it still looks like a robbery. That's what some of the guys were saying. So anyway, so back on the Southampton. So they've got Everton, and then they go Norwich, Villa, which is fairly tough, and then Watford, Burnley, Leeds. So up until early April, Southampton are looking really good fixture-wise, and Broja is the guy that's going to score the goals. He's a menace in that box. He runs at you and he just doesn't stop. So 100% he has to come into most FPL squads, and because it unlocks so much funds that you can use elsewhere, where you can have Salah and De Bruyne now in your squads. By having a cheap striker that performs as well as he has. So 100%, great call.
Yeah, and so I think that's it. Are there any people need to know about Dean and Wahid that you're considering? I know Wahid's looking Sancho. It is a double game week for Manchester United. There's also a double game week coming back on the back end for Liverpool. So that's the week you bring Salah in. So game week 26 is the one you bring Salah in, and not this one, right?
Yeah, it's an interesting couple of weeks, and we'll discuss it at length. But we got double 25, double 26, blank 27, normal 28, 29, and then 30 blank.
You might only use your free hit in one.
Free hits. If you've got 2, use them. If you have 1, try and navigate 27 and use it in 30. But it's going to be it's and then wild card season is also open. So
yes, and you also can't use a free hit one game week after the other. So you need to spread them out.
You need to spread them out. So there's a lot of planning that's going to come around, and the teams that are blanking in 27 are Liverpool, which most of us are probably going to have 2 or if not 3 of their players.
It's Liverpool, Arsenal, and Chelsea.
Yeah. So you need to plan a little bit further in advance for 27 starting now. So
Yes. Yeah, and Leicester City, I beg your pardon. Arsenal, Liverpool, Chelsea, and Leicester City. So some really big names. So that's probably one for the free hit. Okay, guys, thank you very much for your insight into this FPL. Remember, the deadline is Saturday at 1 o'clock. So please don't be caught out like I was 2 weeks ago and at 8:05 and the deadline closed at 8. So yes, thank you very much, guys. Have a great weekend. Enjoy your football. And from us here on the Cheap Seats, goodbye and le sale cacajizo.